Omajnantimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamane. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vanchakalapurvishkvasindubevichpatitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, welcome to everyone. We are reading, continuing from introduction in Bhagavad Gita from yesterday. Now, one may think that because Krishna is the friend of Arjuna, Arjuna was telling him all by flattery, but Arjuna just to drive out this kind of doubt from the minds of the readers of Bhagavad Gita, substantiates the praises of the next verse by accepting the Asita Narada Devala Vyasa. So this great personality distribute the Vedic knowledge as it is, accepted by all the acharyas. Therefore, Arjuna tells Krishna, he accepts whatever he says completely perfect, as says to be completely perfect. Sarvametadritam manye. I accept everything you say to be true. Arjuna also says the personality of God, personality of the Lord is very difficult to understand. He cannot be known even by the great demigods. Yeah. And we read also, I think this and this. This means that Lord cannot even be known by the personality is greater than the human being. So how can human being can understand Lord Krishna without becoming his devotee? Next.
Therefore, Bhagavad Gita should be taken up in a spirit of devotion. One should not think that he is equal to Krishna, nor should he think that Krishna is an ordinary personality or even a very great personality. Lord Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. So, according to the statements of Bhagavad Gita or the statements of Arjuna, the person who is trying to understand Bhagavad Gita, he should at least theoretically accept Sri Krishna as the supreme personality of Godhead. And with that submissive spirit, we can understand the Bhagavad Gita. Unless one reads the Bhagavad Gita in a submissive spirit, it is very difficult to understand Bhagavad Gita because it is a great mystery.
They see the statement, some people may understand differently now. Here, he said, so one should not think he is equal to Krishna. There is no question, the first thing. Nor should he think that Krishna is an ordinary personality. This is also true. So, either we should not think ourselves Krishna or Krishna is an ordinary personality. Both are wrong. Beyond that, Prabhupada is telling, even you should not think Krishna as a great personality also, because he is supreme personality, the greatest of all. So Prabhupada is pleading those who cannot accept Krishna as supreme personality because of envy in the hearts of them. So at least accept him as theoretically at least. See, we should at least accept theoretically, because unless you don't take that knowledge that's coming directly from Krishna, then you will not be able to apply in your life. There's no difference then, and you will not be able to accept the knowledge neither theoretically or practically. So that's why one should accept. Okay. Just what is the Bhagavad Gita? So Prabhupada is telling now, the purpose of Bhagavad Gita is to deliver mankind from the nations of material existence. It's the ultimate aim. So purpose of Bhagavad Gita is to deliver the mankind from the nations of material existence. Even man is in difficulty in so many ways, as Arjuna also was in difficulty in having to fight the battle of Kurukshetra. Arjuna surrendered unto Sri Krishna, and consequently Bhagavad Gita was spoken. Not only Arjuna, but every one of us is full of anxieties because of this material existence. We have to understand. Because of material existence, what is happening? There are so many anxieties are there. Our very existence is in the atmosphere of non-existence. Amazing statement Prabhupada saying. Our very existence is in the atmosphere of non-existence, basically metal world, which is not permanent. Actually, we are not meant to be threatened by non-existence. What does it mean? We are not meant to be threatened by death. Sometimes we don't exist. That is what is called non-existence. One should not be meant for threatened by that. Our existence is eternal, but somehow or other we are put into this asat. What is that asat? The way we are putting ourselves in the clothes, which is not permanent. In the same way, little more last longing body may be lasting for few decades max. Sometimes few days also, few minutes also for some children who are born and die. So this is asat. Yeah, so I'm going to read this.
Actually, we are not mean to threatened by non-existence. Our existence is eternal, but somehow or other we are put into asat. Asat refers to that which does not exist. Out of so many human beings who are suffering, there are a few who are actually inquiring about their position as to what they are, why they are put into this awkward position, and so on. Useless one is acquainted to this position.
Unless one is
Sorry.
awakened.
Unless one is awakened to this position of questioning is suffering, unless he realizes that he doesn't want suffering but rather wants to make a solution to all suffering, then one is not to be considered a perfect human being. Humanity begins when this sort of inquiry is awakened in one's mind. In the Brahma Sutra, this inquiry is called Brahma Jignasa. Atato Brahma Jignasa. Every Athato Brahma Jignasa. Every activity of the human being is to be considered a failure unless he inquires about the nature of the absolute. Therefore, those who begins to question why they are suffering or where they came from and where they shall go after death and proper students for understanding Bhagavad Gita. The sincere students should also have a firm respect for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such a student was Arjuna.
This is a qualification to understand Bhagavad Gita. What is the qualification here? It's given. Therefore, those who begin to question why they're suffering, where they came from, where they're going to go. So these are the proper students of understanding Bhagavad Gita. If they have these kind of questions, then there's no difficulty in understanding Bhagavad Gita. But somebody, hey, what is this? Is all fictitious. That kind of faithlessness, he'll not be able to understand a word in Bhagavad Gita. He'll not be able to understand. So in that way, these sufferings are good, because unless we come across them, we never inquire. Something called Sadharma Pricha, which is spoken by Srimad Bhagavatam. Sadharma Pricha, what am I supposed to do? What is my dharma now? This kind of inquiry, sincere inquiry will come only when one experiences and one wants to come out of the suffering. In this way, material world suffering is very good. And then only we'll be on our toes every moment to understand, trying to understand Bhagavad Gita. Lord Krishna descends specifically to re-establish our real purpose of life when man forgets the purpose. Even then, out of many, many human beings who awaken, there may be one who actually enters the spirit of understanding his position. And for him, Bhagavad Gita is spoken. So very few may understand his position. Actually, we are all swallowed by the tigers of nations. But the Lord is very merciful upon living entities, especially human beings. To this end, he spoke the Bhagavad Gita, making his friend Arjuna his student. Yeah. So, inquiry may be many people may be inquiring, but a sincere and serious person who is inquiring. So, a sincere and serious person who is inquiring, actually, then he will eventually able to realize who he is. Everybody may not say, he said, Bahunam Janmanamante Jnanavan Mam Prapatyate. So this everybody may not be Jnanavan. So only Jnanavan Mam Prapatyate. So being an associate of Lord Krishna, Arjuna was above all ignorance. But Arjuna was put into ignorance on the battlefield of Kurukshetra just to question Lord Krishna about the problems of life, so that the Lord could explain them for the benefit of future generations of human beings and chalk out the plan of life. Then man could act accordingly and perfect his mission of human life. So, being associated of Lord, Arjuna is always above ignorance. Arjuna is pure devotee of Supreme Lord. He knows all the knowledge. But Arjuna was put into ignorance. So, what you call this detail Prabhupada is giving right now, in order to not to misunderstand Arjuna and offend him actually. Hey, Arjuna is so ignorant. Huh? I know better. Huh? I'm not his body. I'm spirit soul. I know. But Arjuna doesn't know. So like that, we may have a question. No, Arjuna was made an instrument, instrument to ask inquiries, ask the questions that are pertaining to our need actually. Being is a pure devotee, he became instrument in the hands of Krishna. So it should not be misunderstood. So I'm going to read the subject of Bhagavad Gita.
The subject of the Bhagavad Gita entails the comprehension of 5 basic truths. First of all, the science of God is explained, and then the constitutional position of the living entities, jivas. There is a Ishvara, which means the controller, and there are jivas, the living entities which are controlled. If a living entity says that he is not controlled but that he is free, then he is insane. The living being is controlled in every respect, at least in his conditioned life. So in the Bhagavad Gita, the subject matter deals with the Ishvara, the supreme controller, and the jivas, the controlled living entities. Prakriti, material nature, and time, the duration of existence of whole universe or the manifestation of material nature, and karma, activity, are also discussed. The cosmic manifestation is full of different activities. All living entities are engaged in different activities. From Bhagavad Gita, we must learn what God is, what the living entities are, what Prakriti is, what the cosmic manifestation is, how it is controlled by time, and what the activities of the living entities are.
So five topics are with the spoken here. So first thing is Ishvara, but we may also consider I'm also Ishvara only. I'm also controller. As if I'm controlling this computer. I'm controlling this notebook. I'm controlling anything around. But all these are false control. He is not in control at all. Why? See, if at all he is a controller, can he do anything he wants? No. He is always controlled by a simple living entity is controlled by the urge to respond to metal nature's calls also. So that's why he should not be think that I'm controlled, I'm free from any control. So because he is controlled, he is a jiva. That's what is spoken. He's controlled by the mental nature. So this way is jiva. If at all he thinks that he is Ishvara, he's insane. So and other 3 aspects also Prabhupada said. Ishvara, jiva, prakriti, kala, and karma. All the 5 aspects are spoken. So Prabhupada goes to explain each one of them ahead. Yes, Remingatu.
Out of these 5 basic subject matters in the Bhagavad Gita, it is established that the Supreme Lord or Krishna or Brahman or the Supreme Controller or Paramatma, you may use whatever name you like, is the greatest of all. The living beings are in quality like the Supreme Controller. For instance, the Lord has the control over the universal affairs of material nature, as will be explained in the later chapters of Bhagavad Gita. Material nature is not independent. She is acting under the directions of Supreme Lord. As Lord Krishna says, Mayadhyakshena Prakriti Suyate Sacharacharam. This material nature is working under my direction. When we see wonderful things happening in the cosmic nature, we should know that behind this cosmic manifestation there is a controller. Nothing could be manifested without being controlled. It is childish not to consider the controller. For instance, a child may think that an automobile is quite wonderful to be able to run without a horse or other animal pulling it. But a sane man knows the nature of the automobile's engineering arrangement. He always knows that behind the machinery there is a man, a driver. Similarly, the Supreme Lord is a driver under whose direction everything is working. Now the jivas are the living entities have been accepted by the Lord, as we will note in the later chapters, as his parts and parcels. A particle of gold is also gold. A drop of water from the ocean is also salty. And similarly, we the living beings being part and parcel of Supreme Controller, Ishvara or Bhagavan, Lord Sri Krishna, have all the qualities of Supreme Lord in minute quantity because we are minute Ishvaras, subordinate Ishvaras. We are trying to control nature. As presently, we are trying to control our control space, our planets, and this tendency to control is there because it is in Krishna. But although we have a tendency to lord it over material nature, we should know that we are not the supreme controller. This is explained in Bhagavad Gita.
So Prabhupada is talking about three things here in this paragraph. When he's talking about Krishna, how he has complete control over everything. The first thing is spoken. Then secondly is not to have a control for nature is a useless idea actually. Nature will be having control. So the control is the supreme controller, that is Ishvara. That's what he's saying. And the third one is speaking about the Jiva. Now, Jiva has also the tendency to control over the material nature, but he doesn't have complete supreme control over everything. We are tiny, so we have some little control, but of course, later on we'll understand that control or that independence, the control over other aspects, other objects are meant, if they are meant for serving Krishna, then that is auspiciousness to the living entity. If this control is used only for serving Krishna. Anyway, so we are going to, we have 2-3 more minutes. We'll read one more paragraph. What is material nature? That is also explained in Gita. Inferior Prakriti has inferior Prakriti, inferior nature. Bhumi Rapanala Vayu Kham. Ahankara iti me banna Prakriti. Krishna says very nicely. The living entity is explained as superior Prakriti, para Prakriti, isn't it? Beside this, there is itastu anyam, Krishna tells. So is always under control. Prakriti is always under control, whether inferior or superior. Prakriti is female and she is controlled by the Lord, just as the activities of the wife are controlled by the husband. Prakriti is always subordinate, predominated by the Lord, who is the predominator. So Prakriti is predominated, Lord is predominated. The living entities and material nature are both predominated. So living entities also, right? They are controlled by others, right? Some superior force. That is, a cyclone comes. It is completely controlling all of us, right? So we may control this simple fan in the room, but we have been completely controlled by the cyclone, bigger cyclone. So our control over is very small. So this is predominated also. Living entities are also, both are predominated, controlled by the Supreme Lord. According to the Gita, the living entities, although parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, are to be considered Prakriti. One is inferior Prakriti, one is superior Prakriti. Jiva Bhutam, superior Prakriti. Living and this material nature is inferior Prakriti. This is clearly mentioned in 7th chapter of Bhagavad-Gita. Aparayamita swanyam prakritim vidhime param jiva bhutam. So the material nature is my inferior Prakriti. But beyond this, there is another Prakriti, Jiva Bhutam, the living entity. So Lord Prabhupada explaining three things. Now the next paragraph, Lord is going to explain the nature, material nature. Of course, the karma also is explained. A little bit about material nature and karma. I think we have cause. Tomorrow we'll read from here. I'll put a just small bookmark. So tomorrow when we meet again, and the remaining things, we discuss about three things. Karma and Kala are also going to be explained by Srila Prabhupada. Actually, this introduction itself is very, very beautiful thing to understand. It's a gist of whole Bhagavad Gita is given in the introduction itself. So then we'll separately understand them in the individual verses also. So thank you all very much.